Hello and welcome to That's Girl Speaks. Today is Saturday, July 26th. I'm Amy Beth. Amy Beth. I talk quickly because that's the speed at which my brain goes. Also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. My pronouns are she, her, they, them. I have a tiny dog. His name is Gus. And he is very needy. But terribly handsome. If you would like to find out more about how you can support the show, you can find that in the drop down, or you can find out on patreon.com/thefatsquirrel. Gus is on very expensive allergy medication, so he appreciates your support. That's why he showed up. See, Gus, you have to also show your face, though. No, I can't do that much. I cannot be perceived. Yeah. Hi, it's Saturday. I'm all a kilter. Yesterday is, I usually record on Friday mornings and then post on Saturday, but yesterday, my partner and I went to have lunch with his niece and her beau, and, yeah, between that and then we were on the north-ish side of town, and the French Seam, which is what I would consider like our garment sewing shop in Indianapolis, is having an anniversary sale. So I was like, well, I mean, it would save me money to go now. But so by the time that was done, and by the time that I encountered traffic on the way home, which, by the way, Indiana traffic, not the same as like basically any other traffic, but it was enough that it was hot and I was all like, bleh. So yeah, I just did not, by the time I got my, you know, my very grounded, very calm, very linear thinking self together. If you're new, that's sarcasm. By the time I got my business together, it was too dark. Speaking of things that happen outside this house, I couldn't fit her in today. Oh, look, this is the... So I planted a packet of seeds that I got that were supposed to be like cutting sunflowers. So they were supposed to be more of like this size rather than like the sunflowers that grow on like a giant stalk. And only one of those plants is like this. I think all the other seeds are like the tree sunflowers, which, I mean, I'm not upset to have the tree sunflowers, but it's just kind of funny that I'm like, why is she the only one? So either the other girls just did not germinate and are just, it's very possible that they were tasty and consumed by birds. I think that that's, in all likelihood, that's what's happened. And maybe the bigger sunflowers I planted a little bit deeper or something, whatever. But here's, oh, it's zinnias and some cosmos. Also, though, I did have a packet of cosmos that was supposed to be like all different colors, like pink, purple, white, orange, yellow. Only orange and yellow. So, I mean, it could be a combination of factors, but I think sometimes the seed packets also, they lie. So yeah, so the outdoors are going. You know, I was just actually sending a message to a friend today, and I started to say, excuse me, drinking soda. I sent a message to a friend today, and I started to say, I'm embarrassed that I haven't grown any vegetables this year, which is, okay, I have a few scarlet runner beans going, but I started to say, and then I was like, you know what? That is not true. I think I should be embarrassed that I'm not growing vegetables. But I'm really happy that I have all of these like weird flowers. They're not weird, they're very normal flowers. But like when I think of people growing flowers in their garden, or yard, I think of like English cottage gardens. Like I think of like properly landscaped and like together looking flowers rather than just me planting a ridiculous number of zinnias in my raised beds, which usually I grow like potatoes and tomatoes in. At the same time, I'm really happy with it. So I don't know why it's like this like knee jerk is to be like, oh, these plants should all be useful. I should be growing food. And also like, that script out of your head, dude. It's so hard. The default scripts, man, they are just like deeply, those tracks in the brain are just so well worn. They're so deep. And boy, I don't know. I feel like the whole goal of midlife is to be like, no, 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 no. Like, the goal of midlife for my generation anyway, maybe it's a better way to say that, because you youngins, you're doing better, is to try to like figure out like, oh, is this a track that I want to have made, or is this just a track that I have followed because it was the only one that I could actually get to at the time? You know what I mean? That was probably very ambiguous and not well thought out, but you know, here we are. So the flowers, they be flowering, and I enjoy that about them. This week's episode is gonna have too much stuff in it, and I'm probably gonna edit that down, and maybe we'll talk more about it next week, because it's a lot. Because I didn't record last week, and I just got back from Super Summer Knit Together, which is hosted by the Knit Girls in Nashville, Tennessee, and I have a million things to talk about. I'm on fire in my brain. I'm just so, I don't know, it's just, I needed it. I needed that bump of energy from folks who are interested in similar things. I needed that reason to sort of like focus primarily on those things. I just needed it. So yeah, it was good. Very, very good. Mullet episode, business in the front. I have a shop update. So shop update August 1st, 9 p.m. Eastern, fatsquirrelfibers.com. This is the post SSK update is the update where I will almost always have the most bags and the most variety that you will find on my shop's website at any time of the year. So fatsquirrelfibers.com. I'm not going to show you all of the bags that I have available because this is already going to be too long. If you're interested in seeing more, you can look at my Instagram feed. I did like a pan of all the bags that I have at SSK, and I almost have all of them in this update. Not exactly all of them, but like the vast majority of them. I have at least a few. Because I didn't get to sewing all of the fabric I had cut before I went to SSK. So I had a few back just to work on. But here's a few. And I won't give you big descriptions because it's also light is weird. But come on, pencils. I feel like the Venn diagram between knitters and office supply lovers, I feel like she's got a fat middle, and I love that about her. I have gnomes with eyeballs. I am militantly in the gnomes with eyeballs camp. There's also another another sock size, and then in large wedge. I mean, I've done this fabric before, but y'all. And it was actually funny because during SSK I was wearing an outfit, and I was like, gosh, I just love this color palette so much. And then I looked at what I was wearing, and it was, except for the black, pretty much exactly the same. I love when that happens. I have these guys. This is one of the only ones, this one and this guy are the only ones in the large wedge that are a cotton linen. So it's a little bit thinner fabric. But just so you know, I still find it to be very durable. I'm going to have these Phoebe wool naked ladies. They are naked. If you are opposed to naked ladies, you're probably not watching this podcast. I have these cats in the garden. Sorry. The sunshine. She be doing stuff. I don't have my camera to automatically adjust for that because it adjusts too much, like as I move things around. And so there's like, so I just do it manually. So just so you know, in case I'm like reaching behind you, I am cupping your bottom lovingly, but also I am changing the ISO on my camera. Cats and gardens. I'm feeling a little punchy today, kids. what is happening with these cute foods? There's a pickle. There's a mushroom. There is blue cheese. Where's she at? There's the cauliflower. Oh, how did I not notice how cute the cauliflower was? This one doesn't have blue cheese. Oh, if you need a specific food. But like, look, the cauliflower is so cute. I said I wasn't going to talk about them. I have this like cute little knit tattoo style. And then there are more large vegetables. Oh, there's also this like, your babysitter in the 80s still had the mushrooms border around her kitchen bag. That's probably too long of a title to fit on there. I have very few, I have a very few Kersey bags, the tiger style, that says shine so bright you burn their eyes. I only edit that because I know some of you watch with people that are smaller humans who prefer them to, you know. But I do have also a few of these guys. I don't want to go big. I want to go home. There's a fat little bird. Super exciting. I'm probably going to bring, if you saw some of the Kersey bags of SSK or people bringing stuff back from SSK, I'm probably going to do some more of the Kersey bags in not too long, but before then I'll be doing Halloween. So they might fall in between Halloween and winter holidays. Okay, then everything else I'm trying to do is a sweater. There are some Aran sweater bags as well, like the big gals. I just didn't bring any up, so you can see them on the website, fatsquirrelfibers.com. I usually try to post photos before, like in the earlier afternoon. Oh, no, that's not true. In the later afternoon. So you can see what's going to be in the update then. But I have this wonderful, like, traditional quilt vibe. I have some of the fabric I did last year with Sarah of Another Crafty Girl as a collab. Oh, such a good color combo. I have these headless plant ladies, which I am deeply in love with. I have, these I did not have at SSK because I just didn't have time to get to everything, but I have these like gigantor fruits. We have pears, we have apples, we have pomegranates, we have other things that I don't even understand. It's just a really good color palette. Like it's this like sort of like frog belly green. Just really dig it. I have maximalist unicorns. Like, oh my gosh, right? Oh, they're so prancy. And then I have bathing suit fat ladies. Okay. Okay. So those are the things, plus more, that will be in that update. Again, that's fatsquirrelfibers.com, and it will be August 1st at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay. So, officially, finally, Shenanigans. I have so little shenanigans in my normal everyday life now. I gotta shenanigan it up more. But this week I do have shenanigans a go-go. So many shenanigans that I can't even talk about them all because I went to a retreat and I saw like 100 and something people's faces, 150 people's faces. I saw so many people's faces. Okay. I have been like, keep finding, like, I can't tell. Okay, so this is what happens. As my hair gets longer, as one's hair gets longer, when a hair comes out, it's much more visible, right? Because it's like this long instead of this long. And so I think I've just sort of like gotten to that like breaking point where like now like my hairs just are like, I'm much more aware of them because they're longer, but it's also freaking me out because I am like, am I losing my hair? And the only reason that's freaking me out, well, I mean, obviously that would be consideration, but it's also what happened to me before I had my hysterectomy. So I'm just like on point. But there was a very weird experience because there was like a loose hair and then it flew off of my head and like spun in the sunshine and then landed on the camera lens. And then it was like a tumbleweed. It's very odd. Super summer knit together. Yeah, it was delish. I took really fun classes. I took from Angela Tong, who I have followed on Instagram for yonks. But she had several classes. She was doing weaving classes. And I think that's, well, anyway, it's the first time I've taken any sort of weaving class. And she was doing like, not floor loom weaving, but like rigid heddle or like, I think rigid heddle, right? I think so. And like the little pin looms, those sorts of things. But I took her class, which was called Weaving Without a Loom. And I think I neglected to bring my other sample. But she had us do weaving on these little 3x3 canvases. So you can see this is sort of like a houndstooth. And it was really enjoyable. The way she has you set up your canvas, you use double-sided tape on the back in this very clever way so that your warp and your weft will stick. They won't like move around on the sides. It's super easy to change threads like when you run out because you have a sticky surface. You don't have to worry about like knotting it or weaving. You do have to worry about weaving it. But anyway, it's just like super clever, wonderful. I was kind of afraid because lots of times when I do the sewing weaving, because that's essentially what you're doing on these, because you're not, obviously there's no heddle involved, it feels very fiddly to me, but I didn't find it that way at all. I really enjoyed it, probably because it's a very small warp that you're working with. But what a great way to, just have something fun to do that's different, that involves yarn, but is not using the same muscle groups or the same level of mental engagement, but also like a really fun way to just experiment with different colors. Like or just maybe not even to experiment with different colors, but sometimes I get a color combination that starts rolling in my head. By the way, Leslie of the Knit Girls, we were not talking about anything specifically, but she was talking about something rolling in her head and she called her brain the rock tumbler. I love hanging out with brilliant people. Y'all, so brilliant. I appreciate you. If nobody has told you today that you're brilliant and you're appreciated, you are. So rock tumbling around in your brain, like sometimes I get those color combinations I just can't, like I have to exercise them in some way or they're just going to continue. And then the rock tumbler gets jammed up and it's like a whole thing. So like what a great way to sort of exercise those color combinations that you need to work on. It's really fun. I also took an embroidery on knits class with Karina Spencer, who was a delight and had the best uniform, the best outfit on ever. She was wearing like, I guess we would call it baby doll dress, like the very high empire-y sort of waist with just like the thin strappies. But the proportions were really fun. She was wearing this sort of like clay-y tomato colored cropped pants that had a really great little flare at the bottom and just like fashion inspiration. So cute. But we did an embroidery on knits class and I forgot to bring my sample up. So hopefully I will be a brilliant person and put it here. But just like a super well organized class. She had, so that like background, that sort of like beigey taupey background is like a machine knitted background. And so at the beginning of the class, she provided us with that, and it had been serged around the edges. And then that little cloud, which is also like I think she said it was a wool t-shirt knit. She had used like a fusible, like a heat and bond sort of thing to fuse that on to the surface of that knitted swatch, which I love when an instructor has thought about the mechanics of a class, right? Like she could totally just like had us bring a swatch of knitted fabric that we were going to then embroider on, right? She could have provided us with that machine knitted swatch and then the little cloud. Did I say that it was a cloud? A little cloud. And then we could have like stood on a line or had to bring an iron or like had an iron per table and we could have totally fused it, could have done it. but it was already done, and I love that brain groove when it's just nice and smooth. And so we talked about like different stitch techniques, and like we used a buttonhole stitch to go around, or blanket stitch to go around the cloud, and like she provided us with both embroidery floss, or no, we used a sport weight yarn to do the embroidery with, but she also had samples of the exact same project done with both like the DMC wool embroidery floss, that new eco embroidery floss, which I have some of and I really want to work with, and I just haven't made the time to do that. And then also I think with a cotton embroidery floss, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, she had two other examples of the same thing with different threads. And that is also such a good thing, because you can really tell like, oh, okay, this is, you know, yes, she could have given us samples that were a different image and a different background texture, but then it's always much harder to tell like, oh, what is really the difference between this sport weight and this wool embroidery floss or thread. So I love it, here for it. So we did that, and then also she had us use the dissolvable, so there's little flowers underneath of the rain cloud, right? She had pre-printed the little dissolvable stick on, it's like Fusey Solve or something, whatever. So you can just embroider over the image. You didn't have to like transfer the image. You didn't have to just like wing the image, because as I said, like usually knitters are knitters because we like some structure, right? Like we like a framework within which to exist. If we were poets, we would write sonnets. Like we like a little structure. Sure, we want to be able to go outside of it. We want to have those options. We don't want the structure to be so rigid that we can't, it's impermeable, but we do want to have that to start with. So I feel like, especially when you're talking with knitters, it's like, it's really great for us to not have to like just freestyle. Because for me, I would be stuck on that. I'd be like, oh, which flowers do I want? And then also the problem, what can happen is that like people have different scale senses, and so like somebody draws theirs and it's too small, and then this embroidery technique doesn't really work as well, or somebody goes really big and it's a totally, you know, which is fine if you're experimenting and like it's a class about experimentation. But when it's a beginner thing and you're just trying to sort of like get your brain around embroidering on knits versus the typical wovens, it's just nice to have all those parameters locked in. And I think that those things happen naturally as you teach a class to more than one group of human beings, right? It's like a stand-up doing their stand-up on a random open mic night versus like introducing all of their material when they have their HBO stand-up comedy special. I don't know why I needed to say all those words, but I did. Same different, like, right? We don't do that. We try these things out. And so like, I understand that like, there is a progression that happens, but you know what? It doesn't always happen, because sometimes the instructor is so married to how they want to present the material, or how they learned the material, or how whatever, that they are not able to adapt that to actually fit the needs of a class. And so I really appreciate, I'm really big on right now in my life of really loving when people are accepting, when people are not rigidly stuck to what they think. I'm really in love with that right now. People saying, oh, you know what? Now that I think about that, that's really not how I feel. Or, you know what? You're absolutely correct. I was thinking about it this way, but I see how you're thinking about it this way. Let's figure something else out. I'm just really in love with those people right now, because there's a stark contrast between that and this like old school patriarchal I am right no matter what nonsense. And I just want to say I appreciate all y'all who are in the camp of, you know what, that's interesting, let's think about it. So I don't know, I just need to say it for a second. So anyway, classes, great. There were also spinning classes and knitting classes. Yeah, just always fun, always great. And then, of course, wonderful just to hang out with folks. Okay, the sweater's coming off, y'all. I'll talk about the sweater in a minute, but it is warm in my house. I'm on the second floor, and of course, sunlight. Necessary, but she's warm. Because these are definitely some single pane. I mean, we got storms in, but come on. So, then, just like the joy of hanging out with all y'all, even those of y'all who weren't there, you were there in spirit. Those of you who couldn't make it this year for whatever reason, those of you who are like, no, I will never go to a retreat. I'm an indoor cat. 100%. But there's just like good collective energy, which I really always appreciate. And I had several people who came up to me and said really nice things about the podcast and what resonates with them and why they think, like, you know, how it's a little bit of positive in their life. And you know what? Like, it's always amazing to hear those things, right? Like, I never thought, I was just talking to a therapist. I say a therapist because now I am in personal therapy and couples therapy. Like, I am fully this woman now. And I'm here for all of it, by the way. It's not reluctant. I am like, yes, let's figure this out. But, what was I saying? Oh, so like the amazing thing is like my 20-year-old self, no clue this is where she would be. No clue. My 20-year-old self who did not know how to talk to humans, who regularly was like, would avoid humans at any cost. And you know, there's still that there, but like the thought of like having these conversations with this many people over like a 3 or 4 day period would have been like bananas. So like that in and of itself is amazing that I get that feedback, but then I get that feedback from people who are really cool, right? Like the great thing about SSK is like there are always new people, amazing, but there's also people that you see sort of like, you know, pretty regularly there. And so it's really amazing to get compliments from people who you know, who you respect, who you think are cool. It's just even wilder. So thank you to anybody who said nice things. And yeah, like sometimes we get like kind of freaked out about like the weirdness of parasocial relationships and whatever. Everybody deals with them in different ways. Like I understand that I'm a really big deal in a group of people like this big. So like my experience with it is very different than like a Lindy West, obviously. But that is all to say, like, some people when they come up to me and say hi feel like kind of weird. Like, don't feel weird. It's really nice because like it's never like I'm just randomly at the grocery store like trying to figure out what couscous to buy and then somebody's like, "Gah, gah, gah, gah." You know, like that doesn't happen. So I just really appreciate folks. And then I super appreciate folks at the market. I had a great market day. And some of y'all will wait in line for me. You're so patient. You're so gracious. I'm so thankful for all of you who support the business, whether it's at SSK or here. And by here, I mean like on the internets. But yeah, like again, life, right? Like we have these moments of like, ooh, can I keep doing this? Should I keep doing this? Is this going to be viable for the next 10 years? Do I do a career change? Like what? And I'm not saying that like, oh, suddenly those like concerns or fears are just like put to bed. Like, no, but it's really nice to have a little boost, you know, along the way. And so it's really just always appreciated. So thank you. Yeah. 20-year-old me is like, stop tooting your own horn. Gonna let it be in the universe. Okay. So then also I won an entire bag of Noro, which I'm so excited about. The Knit Girls always do amazing prizes. Lots of folks donate. They're super generous. And I won an entire bag of Noro. I'm so excited. And it's all greens. So I'm really excited to play with that and like figure out Like, do I do a James and Watts and then something else? Like, so fun. I feel like I do need to do a James and Watts with it. I love when people have a middle initial. So precious. And then I traded and or bought a million things. Every year, y'all. Every year I go to this market. I'm exhausted, right? Like, it's super hot. I set up, and I've got this into my head. I'm like, you know, this year I do not need to buy anything. I have plenty of stuff. Like, don't need to do it. Don't bring stuff home. And then, like, the other vendors are just, they're so good. Like, how do you not overindulge? I don't know. Some people can do it, but that's not me. So I traded and purchased a lot of stuff. I'm not going to show it to you all at once because it would be sort of bananas. But, so I will show you definitely as I work on things, but I will show you a few things. Also, like, things are just everywhere. So that's also part of it. But I got this awesome Targhee sock from Hip Strings, and I've got 2 skeins of it, and I think, one of the things I didn't talk about, SSK, they do a try it on room. So everybody's encouraged to bring shawls and sweaters, and you're encouraged because you get extra raffle tickets to do it. And the folks who are the magical assistants and the knit girls themselves all sort of like, you put a tag on your knitwear that's, you know, what size it is, what pattern it is, what yarn it is, if you made any modifications. And then I had several that I brought that I just had, you know, free to a good home. So those all went to people that liked them and were excited to wear them because they've just been hanging out here and not being worn. So that's super exciting. But the other exciting thing is you can try on sweaters. And even when you're a fat human, you have sweaters to try on. And again, we're all different sizes, right? So like, some people are going to have more sizes, things to try on than other people. Some people are just be insanely generous and bring lots of things for everybody to try on. And maybe they're not going to find anything. So like, it is a roll of the dice, but let me just discuss as a human in a big fat body. I don't know why I say that. You know, I gotta stop saying that. I'm not in a fat body. Like, I am a fat body. There's this weird disconnect between the mind and the body sometimes, but anyway, I need to work on that. I get to try on lots of different sweaters, which is amazing. So I was really excited to try on Rumble Raglan, and another one that I found that I was not on my radar at all was a James and Watts rib lace raglan, I want to say. Just to verify, yes, it is the rib lace raglan by James and Watts. Whatever. I may have not been saying that middle initial correctly this whole time, but whatever, it's fine. But anyway, so that one was not even on my radar at all. I was really hoping that Rumble Raglan, that I would like it. And the reason I wanted to try it on is because as it's photographed, and as the majority of the people who are wearing it, it is written with negative ease, like a significant amount of negative ease. And there have been times in my life where I loved a negative ease, but right now I'm sort of in my like 0 to positive ease era. And so I kind of wanted to try it on and just see how it would work on my body with a little bit of positive ease. And I was so lucky there was one there to try on, because Emily is amazing. And then I think I can say who made those sweaters because she is on the Instagrams, and I'm pretty sure that her profile is public. But both of those sweaters that I've tried on were by Spinfluencer Emily. She's Knit Wit NITWITTE 8. Knitwit 8. And she's an amazing spinner, knitter, human, group maker, all of the things. Okay, so that was just, I got off. I forgot to mention that. But here we go. But I got this, 2 skeins of this, because I thought it might be fun for that rib lace raglan. I know, we'll see. But this is Jill's Targhee sock. This is Crab Mentality. It's the 90% superwash Targhee, 10% nylon base. And yeah, we'll see. If not, I'll use it for something else. I also, speaking of superwash tare nylon, I also, from Woolens and Nosh, got her Wes Anderson colorway. It's so good, y'all. And then I also got repotting sprouts because, hi, look at that. Do I have sort of an embarrassing collection of Woolens and Nosh? Yes, I do. Is Michelle an awesome human being? Yes, she is. What am I gonna do? So yeah, so there's that. I got some stuff from Fandom Fibers. I got some, I got some fiber from Apothecary, this Rambouillet, which just, right? So yummy. Rambouillet is one of my favorites to spin. Maybe it will inspire me to actually spin. If not, it's real pretty. Okay, so that is like the most abbreviated version of SSK. Oh my gosh, another thing that was amazing. My friend Sarah, who is another crafty girl, she and her partner were there, and one of the things they did is they went to the Goo Goo Cluster Factory? Editing self here, very important that it is the Goo Goo Cluster storefront, where you can have a Goo Goo Cluster experience, but it is not necessarily the Goo Goo Cluster Factory. I did not know that it was in Nashville. And sorry, I always say Nashville like it's Louisville. It's probably Nashville, but I don't know. It feels fun in your mouth to call it Nashville, you know? I don't know. It is. So Sarah went to the Goo Goo Cluster Factory and she got me a custom Goo Goo cluster, because this is a thing that can happen in your life. So I got milk chocolate. Okay, do you know what a Goo Goo cluster is? See, I thought everybody knew what a Goo Goo cluster was, because even though I've probably only eaten 2 Goo Goo clusters in my entire 46 years of life, I know what they are because they were in every Cracker Barrel of my whole life. And in fact, I do deeply think that that's maybe the only place I've seen them. But you know, when you're a kid and you're in Cracker Barrel, you absorb everything in there. You're not getting any of it, but you have deep lust. It's like the Amazon of my childhood, right? Like, it's just all of the things that don't exist anywhere else. And they're magical, and you can look at all of them. They're all gathered in this one place. And you're waiting for your table of 6 to be available next to the fireplace. And while that's happening, you get like let loose, because the store is only so big, so you can get let loose. And you can just fall deeply in love with all of the items at the Cracker Barrel. And Goo Goo clusters are definitely one of those items. And so if you don't know what it is, I'm not actually 100% sure. In my mind, the one you can buy at said Cracker Barrel, do you know what a Cracker Barrel is? I mean, are Cracker Barrels only on the East Coast? Cracker Barrel is like a homey restaurant that you ate at when you were on a highway. Like if you were going from somewhere to somewhere, you just had to stop at a Cracker Barrel because you knew what it was. You knew what was going to be on the menu. You knew what the waitresses were going to be like. You knew you could get a Goo Goo cluster. Like, it was just a known entity in the 80s and 90s. They're probably going to go out of business like tomorrow because, but whatever. They were a staple of life, especially when you traveled somewhere with your mama and your papa. So for what I remember, it's like a caramel or a nougat, and then it's like peanuts on it, and then it's dipped in chocolate. That's what I remember it being. And I think there were multiple flavors, like everything, but like back then, I think there was like probably 2 options. Well, now you get a custom one if you go to the factory, or if you have a friend who goes to the factory. And so I got milk chocolate. I know. You fancy people out there are like, but the thing is, in my mind, the ratio to of chocolate to inside stuff was like more chocolate to inside stuff. Like so in my head, the dark chocolate would be too much, right? In reality, it ended up being different because the custom one was different than, of course, the one off the street. It was like big and chunky. It was like a little mini, it was like the size of a moon pie. Let me also talk about other Southern things that you don't know about. Whatever. I'm not going to describe everything. Probably. Anyway, so I got milk chocolate because I thought the ratio was off. But now that I had one, I was like, okay, dark chocolate would have really worked well, but it was fine. And then I got bourbon caramel and brown sugar nougat and pecans and double pretzels. I'm a food genius. It was so delicious. My face sort of melted off. And it was such a giant, delicious treat that I actually got to have it over several days. So yeah, there's more to talk about, but I've probably already talked for like 45 minutes, so I guess we should talk about crafts. No, I'm really excited about my crafts this time. Okay, so at the beginning of the podcast, you probably saw me have something that I took off, and that is my finished Kara sweater. So that is, I will put it in here. Okay, y'all, so, I'm wearing an indoor cat bra, so, just imagine higher, less gravity. Or not. I'm an indoor cat now. So this is my Kara sweater and my pajama pants made out of an old bed sheet. But it's a look right now. I'm very pleased with it. It's such a fun knit. And it's like a great, for over a tank top in the summer when you're going from no air conditioning to air conditioning, or you just want a little extra security provided by sleeves. Understand that. Modifications that I did make that I would recommend, especially if you are a human in a larger body. The sleeves are supposed to be longer. I want to say 2 more lace repeats. And that would be great if you wanted a long sleeve, but because of the construction, there is no arm shaping. So the circumference at the cuff, like before you do ribbing, the circumference of the cuff is the same as the circumference of the underarm. It's just a straight shot. So the only thing pulling it in is ribbing. So if you're a fat person and let's say you have, like my arm circumference is sometimes 20 inches. Like if I have 20 inches at this area, it's not gonna be fun for me to wear, right? I'm gonna catch that on everything. And that's really not an issue. I mean, I guess that's an issue with scaling the pattern, but this is not a situation where I'm like, designer, do better, because it's literally like the construction is that way. It's not as if the designer said, oh, like, yeah, you're 2 times bigger than me, so the cuff of your sweater should be 2 times bigger than mine. Like that I consider a grading problem. This really is just like how the sweater is constructed. And so if you want to have less circumference at the bottom, wherever it falls, you'll need to apply a good amount of ribbing, or do something funny with some short rows. That's also a possibility, to do some short rows, right? Yeah, that would work. But yeah, so I did make mine shorter. And also the body of mine is shorter, but that, I don't know. That could also just be like, cotton yarn. I like a higher waist, like, multiple things. But I'm very pleased with it. I think it's super cute and highly enjoyable. Okay. So yeah, that's my Kara sweater. It's a pattern by Cecily Glowick McDonald. Arr. Sorry. And I knit mine with Knit Picks Sport Weight Cotton in the Brass Heather colorway. And I'm just so tickled with it. I'm really loving it. Yeah. So I talked a little bit, if I didn't, okay, I'm going to trust that I talked about how the modifications I did. Another modification that I did not mention is I used a different pickup rate for my ribbing that goes around. I think the pattern is written to do a 4 to 5 pickup rate, which I do use a lot. But my sweater was sort of doing, see, there's another hair that just fell out of my head and it flew away. Maybe I'm just shedding because it's hot. Let's just go with that. So sometimes with a cardigan sweater, when it's open, like the front can do this thing, right? Like where the bottom doesn't stay like perpendicular to your torso. That's right, right? Doesn't stay parallel to the ground. It sort of does this thing, like if this is the opening, it does this thing where it sort of like flares down, and mine was doing that pretty intensely before I did the ribbing. So I knew that I wanted the ribbing to pull that back up. So instead of doing the suggested pickup rate, I did a 2 to 3 pickup rate. For every 3 rows, I picked up 2 stitches. And so that kind of like tightened that up a little bit. That tightened that up a little bit and made it so that when I wear it, the hem is more even, more flat. Now, I think the way it is pictured, it is actually, I don't know how things work. I think the way it's pictured, it does actually picture that it sort of like flares down like that. So I'm not trying to throw shade at the pattern designer. Like that's just not what I wanted. So this is the second time I've knit this pattern. Now it's been years since I knit it the first time. And I knit it then in Quince & Company Chickadee, which is their sport weight wool. And it's just found a new home since then. I don't have it to show you, but I really enjoyed knitting it that time. And I really enjoyed knitting this time. I would happily make 1, 2, 3, 4 more. There's something about the lace pattern plus the like very non-shaping, it's all straight edges. There's something about that combination that is just very delightful, and I can just knit on it and knit on it and knit on it. And the sport weight versus like a fingering weight, sport weight's still very wearable, but just takes a little bit less time than a fingering weight. That said, this would be super great in a fingering weight as well. So that's the Kara, K-A-R-A, by Cecily Glowick McDonald. And then I have a new cast on. We also played games, but I'll tell you about the games next time. So as I told you earlier, I was really hoping that I could try on the Rumble Raglan. And that is a pattern. I've never knit anything from her, but all of her sweaters, oh wait, that's this coloring page. That's not the actual pattern. Okay. The Rumble Raglan is by Lydia Morrow. So L-Y-D-I-A, last name Morrow, M-O-R-R-O-W. And she's at What Lydia Made. Oh, excuse me. This may be an exercise in futility. You can kind of see what's going on. All of her sweaters, so cute. But she's raglan, she's cropped, she's written negative ease. I wanted all of those things, but positive ease. And so the thing that's really intriguing to me about this sweater is A, it's super cute. That's the 2-color version that I just showed you. Much more popular or more common. The way I'm like trying to show you this picture is it cropped it on my phone so that it basically just looked like I was trying to show you somebody's boobs. And it kind of still does. Okay, that's better. More commonly is the 3-color version. And the 3-color version or more is what I really like the most. And so the great thing is it's written for fingering weight, and for most sizes you can get away with a skein of of 2 of the colors and maybe 2 skeins of that 3rd color, or you could just go in for 4 colors or 5 colors or mini skein sets, whatever, all of the things. And it is written with very generous sizing. It is And it's written with a wide range of sizes. So we are talking about fitting an upper bust. So not with your boob adipose, just your upper bust would be anywhere from 31 to 57 inches. And then she has multiple cup sizes that you can add so that you can extend that range out. I think there's like, well, whatever, I'm not there yet. There's multiple cup sizes. You can find out more at her website or on Ravelry. So the fun thing is you can like play with colors, right? Like you can have some of these speckles. You can do like some variegated along with some solids. I mean, you can do whatever you want. But for me, that's what's most appealing. And so I had a couple of skeins of this from another crafty girl. This is her Strong Sock in her colorway Power. And I love this colorway. It's got so many good greens in it. Sarah is really good at greens. If you need a green yarn, she's your friend. But it's also got this fun sort of true-ish orange, maybe slightly warmer than a true orange. And it's also got sort of like a wheaty, sort of oatmeal-y, sort of natural color in it. But it also just sort of has like mild neon vibes. Like every once in a while there's like something that might be a neon in there. And so I had this, and then I had this skein from Hazelnuts that is very much like the wheaty color in there. And I needed a third color. I had also an orange, but I was sort of like thinking maybe the orange would be too much contrast. So Miss Babs was at the market, and I purchased this for my third colorway. This is their Yummy 2-ply. And this color is like pistachio something. Pistachio Dream, pistachio, whatever. It's pistachio something. I can't find the ball band, even though I specifically put it in here. So yeah. So I sort of like played around with the black and white filter on my phone. I took pictures of different colors together. Another option was to use this, which is also Miss Babs Yummy 2-ply in the Time colorway. Again, like I said, I had that orange that also went, but it felt like what I wanted was not a ton of contrast, but enough that I could see the contrast, right? Like I didn't want, because my fear was that if I used that orange, it would really dominate. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted the greens to dominate. So that's why I kicked it out of the queue. And so this is what we have so far. I've just cast on the, oopsie, it's top down. The pattern is written, I think, for a folded neckband. At least that's what the pictures are. Did I read the instructions totally? But I think that's what it is. Emily had two versions. She had one that had like a traditional ribbing neckband, and she had one that had an I-cord. And so I knew that I did not want the folded neckband because like that's just too much up here for me. Like I feel like strangled. So what I did is I just did a provisional cast on for the number of stitches that would begin the actual like 2x2 colorwork pattern. And then I'll decide after I'm done what sort of neckline I want to put on it. So I just did a crochet provisional cast on. So it is 2x2 stranded colorwork. I don't know what the recommended size of needle was, but I am using a US 2.25 for the body. Here is sort of what mine's looking like. So we have all, well, at the very bottom, we have the new third color combination. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. It's really fun to knit so far. I have not, like I said, I've not gotten to the bust shaping or short rows. I'm not even sure. Well, I guess it's still shaping. I've not gotten to the bust to see what's happening there. But one of the things I love is that it is a raglan sweater and there are different rates of increase for bigger circumferences. Okay. So, you know, like just the most generic raglan, let's say, you increase every other row at 8 points, right? You increase both sides of the sleeve, both sides of both the front and the back. So most general, you start and you do increasing every other row, 8 stitches until you get your desired full circumference, like with sleeves and body. And then you work it even until it fits you, right? Okay. Works very well for a number of body sizes. It does not work for people in my size body. Because what happens is, for example, if you're a 50, a 56, a 65, a 72 inch bust, I'm not sure where the breaking line is what I'm saying. What happens is if you increase every other row, those 8 stitches, and you just increase until you get a big enough circumference, guess what happens? Your arm side is like 1.5 times deeper than it needs to be. So let's say you need 20 inches for your arm, you suddenly got 30 inches, right? And it means that, like, just like you're wearing your Big Smith overalls from the men's section and the crotch is down to your knees, it's the equivalent of that for a sweater. So like your, like your body, your sleeve might be meeting your body like almost at your elbow, right? You've suddenly got a poncho and you didn't know it. So she does it for you. So for example, I am knitting the size 8 and you do this traditional increases for X number of rows. And then she has you do double increases. So instead of increasing 8 stitches, you're increasing 16 stitches every other increase row. So you'll do the 16 increase, you'll rest. You'll do an 8 increase, you'll rest. And so you get the sweater should be big enough in its circumference, but your depth is going to be more reasonable for more bodies. And another thing about this pattern is that she's doing that and she gives it to you. I think she's got it written, but she gives it to you like in a chart. So you just find your size and you're like, okay. And it's like she's got it coded. So one color means no increases. One color means you're just increasing at the sleeves, let's say. One color means you're increasing. So like one color is 4 stitches increase. One color is 8 stitches increase. One color is 16. And so she's got it for you. So you could very easily see. So dreamy, right? So if you're a person who loves to check off, you've got that. But you're a person like me who just sort of like wants to know from bird's eye view, like I want the Elizabeth Zimmerman pithy directions for a sweater. They're there. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. So appreciate it. I know that's not for everybody. That's not everybody's jam, but I love it. So I'm very excited about that. We'll see how the bust increases go. Not reading ahead. Don't want to spoil it. But so far I'm really enjoying it. And so that is again, the Rumble Raglan by Lydia. She makes stuff. Her name is, in fact, Lydia Morrow. What Lydia made. She doesn't make stuff. Sorry. And so, of course, I already have like 3 other color combinations on board. They're in the queue. But if this is a way to use some beloved variegated skeins in a sweater, I'm so excited for it. Just like the Recalibrate is a great way to pair a variegated with a solid. If this can be like another way to do that, I am really excited because I have so many variegated skeins that I love, 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 but would love them even more if I could work them into a garment. So I'm very excited, keeping my fingers crossed that this goes well. Okay, so then in What Am I Reading? Still a startling number of thrillers, but also, I finished the Twyford Code, which is a novel by Janice Hallett, Hallett. So I've talked about some other of her books, Alberton Angel's The Appeal. And this is, again, it's in the epistolary style, so it's a mystery, but the mystery is revealed through primary sources. So, for example, in The Appeal, the majority of the book is emails between different characters in the book. In this one, it is computer transcribed audio files made by the primary character. So the primary character is described as dyslexic. He narrates the novel, or he narrates everything into an iPhone 4 specifically. And then a program is used to transcribe that and it's important that a program transcribes it for part of what's happening. So that's why I say that specifically. That's not like a human transcribing it. Okay. I'm like, is that right? These words, all of them, they come out of my mouth. So let's just read the back. It's time to solve the crime of the century. 40 years ago, Stephen Smithy, found a copy of a famous children's book by disgraced author Edith Twyford. Its margins full of strange markings and annotations. His remedial English teacher, Miss Isles, saw the mysterious book and became convinced a message in secret code ran through all of Twyford's novels. Soon after, she took the class on a field trip and disappeared. Now out of prison after a long stretch, Smithy decides to investigate the mystery that has haunted him for decades. In a series of voice recordings on an old iPhone, he visits the people and places of his childhood for clues as to where Miss Isles may have gone that day. Could she have been right about the secret code? It soon becomes clear that Edith Twyford wasn't just a writer of forgotten children's stories. The Twyford Code holds a great secret, and Smithy may just have the key. Very enjoyable. I typically consume fiction audially. Like, I prefer an audiobook. By the way, I just heard on NPR the other day, 40% of the people that they surveyed, who knows, 40% of people surveyed do not think listening to an audiobook counts as reading. 40%. I figured there were a few people out there. You might be one of them. I love you, but you're wrong. It does count as reading. I love you. You're wrong. 40%. That was all to say. Majority of fiction I consume via audiobook. The majority of nonfiction I consume via either like an e-reader or a physical book with words that my eyeballs engage with. These are different for me. I can't imagine trying to listen to these via audiobook. That might be just how my brain works. Like, some people may not have a problem with it at all, but just be aware. If you are a person who tends to listen to things via audiobook, this may not work for you because it is all these firsthand or primary sources. It would be very challenging, I think, especially this one, because of this important factor of the text of the book being narrated into an iPhone and then transcribed by the computer into words on the page. Like, that does play a role in the actual meat of what is happening, or at least the meat of the mystery, or the meat of the solving of the mystery. One of those things. So that was all just to say, like, heads up. Of the three, I don't know. When I finished it, I was like, this is my least favorite one. And in fact, the majority of the time I was reading it was like, this is my least favorite one. But after it sort of sat with me for a little bit, I don't think that's true anymore. It's one that the majority of the book, there's a quick turnaround at the end. How about that? Without giving anything away. There's a quick, like, moo at the end. And so at first I was kind of like, I don't care for that. But now that I've sat with it more, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm cool with it. I still think Albertan Angels is my favorite. I still feel confident that Albertan Angels is my favorite. It was the first one I read. So in like my recommendation, if you're interested in them, is to read Albert and Angels first, and then maybe The Appeal, and then this one. But that might just be because that's the order I read them in. But also I think that's sort of the order in which this expository factor is easiest to understand. Maybe is what I want to say. By the way, the word is epistolary. My brain cannot, expository and epistolary don't, my brain has trouble with those two things. I want to think one, say the other, say one, think the other. Use them interchangeably. They definitely are not. I'm not consciously using them interchangeably. My mouth is using them interchangeably, right? So like, I apologize if I have said expository when I meant epistolary, but yeah, that's a weird one I have trouble with. Okay, so I think what I was trying to say is that like, I think this epistolary thing is less, I think the epistolary nature of the books is easiest in that way. Like the epistolary nature of Albert and Angels is very familiar. You're getting stuff through like newspaper articles. You're getting stuff through like people talking about the newspaper articles. There's less of an unreliable narrator factor. How about that? There's less of an unreliable narrator factor in Albert and Angels, and then that becomes increasingly problematic down that line of Albert and Angels, The Appeal, and the Twyford Code. If I'm remembering Albert and Angels correctly. I'm pretty sure I am. Maybe not. In my head right now, that's what's happening. So again, that's the Twyford Code by Janice Hallett. Really enjoyed it. She also has the Christmas Appeal, which is characters that are in the Appeal. She has the Examiner, and she also has the Killer Question. So I'm excited to read all of those. So I think that's all of my allotted words for the week. Shop update August 1st. I'll see you again next week. What else? Oh, another thing I was talking, this is the other great thing about SSK and also other places that I meet knitters, is that I think because we have the knitting in common, there already feels like something's there. And then especially like if it's a podcast retreat, you sort of have that kind of thing in common. And so I don't know what it is exactly, but it feels like at these events, I get to jump into deeper conversations than I would with just like 150 randos. Well, if there were 150 randos in the room, I would probably not having conversations with any of them. I don't know, maybe I would if I was feeling sassy. But like somehow, maybe it's because I'm comfortable. Maybe it's because I know a lot of those people a little bit, some of them a lot. And so like, I don't know what exactly the configuration is that makes it happen, but it feels like I get to jump into deeper conversations. And like I still remember a lot of them, like years and years and years ago, I talked to someone who was Southern and probably more like in the baby boomer generation. And she was talking, like we were talking very deeply about like she was deciding whether or not to let her hair go gray, and like all of these influences in her life that were sort of like fighting against her natural tendency to want to allow that to happen. And like we had this like really great conversation about like all of the things around that, you know. So like I remember these I remember these conversations for years and years and years. And like, when do you get to say that? That's not very common. So that was to say that one of the conversations I had this year was about ketamine therapy. And I don't know that I've said it on the podcast before, but it's not that I've not wanted to reveal it. Maybe I just never have. I don't know. But in the spring of 2024, I did a 6-session ketamine therapy thing. program. And it was really powerful for me where I was at that time. I am not selling ketamine. I have no financial interest in the ketamine for therapy system. I am not a therapist, a psychiatrist, or any of the ists. But as I was having this conversation, I thought, and I've thought before, that maybe this is a podcast I should do. I've sort of gone back and forth about it. Like, is this, like, I don't know what the imaginary too much information line is. It's not something I'm good at understanding. I kind of don't have a too much information line. But I understand that there is sort of this like socially accepted one. So I sort of struggle with being like, where to find that. But also in this course of this conversation, it occurred to me like, you can turn this off. Like, I'm actually not even with you in person where you feel obligated to sit with me. Like, you can literally just turn it off. So maybe that too much information line doesn't count, even though weirdly I'm talking to like a lot of people I don't know. I don't know. But in my head, that makes sense. Anyway, so I thought maybe I should do a podcast about it. I might do sort of like a soft launch with patrons first. To sort of just like help me process a little bit how I would talk about it in a more public forum. It's sort of like a, it's like a softer landing. And also to get feedback about like, what, because I've been looking into psychedelic therapies for years now and I find it fascinating. And I've read multiple books about it. I've listened to multiple people who are either people who've experienced it or people who administer it. I've learned about like different, like the guy who developed internal family systems now has campus, not the right word, but anyway, he does do psychedelic assisted therapy within the internal family systems model. Gabor Mate does psychedelic therapies. Like, so I mean, like I've read lots about it, so that it might be also helpful to do a Patreon first, because you can tell me like, oh, that's not common knowledge. You actually do need to explain that part more, or vice versa. You don't need to explain that part more. Like, you're talking too much about that and everybody knows that already. Because I would like to produce something that is useful to people and not just me rambling about something. So, I don't know. What do you think? Yeah, so that's sort of something that's in the rock tumbler right now. And if you are a patron and you're interested in that, I would love to hear about it. If you're not a patron and you're still interested in it and you would like to see that come to like the regular feed, I would love to know that. If you have, okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. I was going to say if you have specific questions, but like, let's not go there yet because that'll be too overwhelming. But yeah, it might be a series. It might be a series of a couple of different ones because yeah, it might be like a put one out, get questions, and then do another one. That could be what it is. Okay, so yeah, save your questions. If you have any, if you are at all interested. If you're still here, blessings upon you and your house. I hope you're not melting if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, or that if you are melting, you have a nice little bucket to find yourself in. I hope your flowers are flowering, or your vegetables are vegetabling, or you're eating crunchy, delicious things all the days. Crunchy is definitely the texture of summer, right? I think so. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out and have a safe trip home. I'll see you next time.